welcome to Sim.bc, where right now is 17, and it's a beautiful day outside, and I'm just rocking around before I'm supposed to eat me lunch, so I might be a bit on the fence of some of the things that I'm going to talk about today, and I realized that this isn't on, and now we're in action, people. Yes, I mean, don't you just assume it's all going to be structured by now? I mean, I've just been doing this for like, what? Half a year? More than half a year? Why isn't the structure there? Anyways. Right now I'm in the midst of and in the middle of, cleaning my apartment, so that might be why there are some things that are where they shouldn't be, but I see now that you can see them. But, I know that it's a full-on mess out here, so that's great, right? Am I right? Why am I even saying this, Another funny thing really that's happened as of lately is that I usually take down the curtains when I'm supposed to record because, I don't want to have that natural light too much, right? Because it weirds out the entire lighting in the room and so on and so forth, even though it's good when it's light outside, but sometimes not, sometimes it's changed, etc, yada, yada. And I realized that one of my neighbors is probably unconsciously spying on me. It's probably not a conscious choice by his part, it's just that he has a balcony that sees right into my apartment. Not exactly right straight in, but he can see my apartment and he can see it pretty well. And he must wonder why I at times at about 20 to 30 minutes a time take down my curtains at random times in the day and then just take them up again after taking them up in the morning. And he's like, what? He did it again! Come watch! He did it again! So that must actually seem... Wow, it must be so weird for him to see that. Anyway. We're getting into it. Why? Well, because today it's time for the internet's favorite show! Wow, and what can it be more than a voice crack? Well, it is, if you didn't know it, the SNR, the Saturday News Recap here at Sim.bc, here at my little corner of the internet, here at my little channel on YouTube. And we're gonna just blaze through these things because there are so many things to go through, and many of them actually being rather, happy for once. All the news we're gonna tackle today are news that I want to talk about upon hours and hours and hours and end, and I might just do that in a podcast in the future. We'll see. The first one starts with addressing some of the Chinese economy, and I always love when I get me some Asian economy news. Because, business related news from other parts of the world that isn't the US and isn't the EU. Because it's important, as I mentioned before, to look into different parts of the world and see that there are success stories in different parts of the world. And now the BBC News, if I get it correctly, I hope I do, because I'm looking at so many different news pieces and news outlets out there, but tend to like BBC News. Anyway, went to China, right? And they were interviewing an employee of this firm called Sungrow. Yeah, that's what they call it. Not sunflower, not sun firm. Sungrow, which is taking catastrophe areas and turning them into what should we say, solar panel lakes, because there has been these coal mines in China, because China is probably apparently a very, very reluctant on coal in the coal industry, so they had lots of different coal mines that were over exhausted on their coal, and they kept digging, and they digged under villages and stuff like that, and then the coal mines inevitably broke due to poor working conditions, or at least this is how it was presented by the company Sungrow, right? And, it just fell down, it all collapsed, and then it just poured in rainwater and poured in water from underneath the ground, and they became big and huge lakes. So the big catastrophe areas are now big lakes. And what Sungrow is doing is that they're putting solar panels on the lake. And I know that some of you will be like, why waste a perfectly good lake? Well, because it's kind of an artificial lake if you think about it. There's not that much of there's not that much of natural life going on in the lake because, well, there's no fish there because it's, very inside of the country. There's has been an artificially made lake due to a human-made catastrophe. So what they have been doing is that they put solar panels on the lake, on, small rafts or something. But anyway, they float. That's like the entire business idea. They have floating solar panels. And they've taken the people who have been working in the coal mines and put them into work on the solar panels, in the solar panel rafts, which I think is amazing because you don't only do something that's renewable, right? A renewable form of resource to society. You don't only benefit society by that manner, you also put the people who were unemployed by the recent events to work at the new factory or at the new sort of product that's come out there, the new sort of plant, which I thought is amazing. So not only, as I said, renewable energy, but they're also combating unemployment, which is, two thumbs fresh from my side. Simultaneously, as it's not just, a work or a project that I put out there just for the sake of putting it out there. No, it's actually generating enough electricity to power, 15,000 Chinese homes, or the average home in China in that area. And I was like, wow, this is just overall all good, all great, all fine, all dandy, and I was amazed at so many different levels, and I thought, this is great. So that's me sharing that. Sungrow, go check it out. I highly recommend it. They have lots of different interesting initiatives that they're taking, and I know I might be rambling a bit, but that's just because, wow, I'm excited about all these things. And the next news then, if we're just moving on so that we actually make it through these, the next international piece is Nintendo. Oh yeah, because their first fiscal year of selling the Switch is over. It's officially over. And how many units did they sell? And I can say that I'm one of them, owning one of the Switches. I like it. Yeah, I have no problem with the Switch whatsoever, actually. I think it's a revolutionary piece of technology, handheld console technology, and I just love it. Plus that you can plug it into your TV and it's all of a sudden, or monitor for that matter, and all of a sudden you have your home console. And then the question on everybody's mind, we've been out there, we've been searching, we want to know how many of these consoles did they actually sell during their first fiscal year of sales. And this is probably not going to be the focus of the entire news piece, but they were talking about that. Do you know how many? I mean, I was estimating a good, maybe they're selling 8 million. Maybe they're selling 8 million copies because it's such a high, the hype is really there. People want to have it, but after the 3DS, they might be a bit reluctant. That was my entire thought process. And other people that I've been talking to have had the same kind of thought process. They were like, yeah, but simultaneously, I know it's good, the hype is there. I kind of want one, but I already have another home console. Do I really want to go out and buy the Switch? And then they launched all of the titles, and people were like, I'm buying the Switch because I want to play the game, which was quite evident in their figures as well, as I will be talking about. But they sold 15 million, over 15 million units. I mean, just to put that into perspective, if I got $1, or rather if I got 1 cent from each and every person who has bought a Switch, I'd probably never need to, work in the rest of my life if I use that money accordingly, right? If I got 1 crown rather from each person, I would imagine the just sheer amount of units that has been shipped and sold. I mean, can you even imagine, can you even fathom so many Switches out there? I mean, it was almost twice the amount that I, estimated for my non-conservative estimate, from my very optimistic estimate about how many, units there was about sell. It was always twice the amount of that, which is reflected in their statement. They're saying like, wow, we sold twice as much physical units last year as we did the year before, which was, quite evident. They launched a new console, so sure, that's supposed to make sense, and I know that makes sense, but twice as much? I know that the 3DS wasn't the biggest seller on the market, and neither was the Wii U or whatever, if that's even a thing. Yeah, that's a thing. It's not just a meme, right? But the Switch just boasted their sales so incredibly much, and it's so amazing for me to see who liked the company. And as I was saying, their own launches made this happen, because if you look at Mario Odyssey, again, we're up there in the millions, and it apparently sold, including the physical copies and the digital copies that they sold in the store, over 10 million copies of this game, Super Mario Odyssey, was sold and really pushed the Switch out there. And I thought it was enough with Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, that was enough. And then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which was probably just a port from, or not a direct port, but kind of a port from the Wii U or 3DS or whatever it came from, with all the DLCs. But I thought that's enough. I mean, I have 3 games on my Switch, and it's Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart and Zelda, and I'm like, that's enough. I'm happy with the Switch. I've invested hundreds of hours on that thing just based on these 3 games. And it's amazing to see that Super Mario Odyssey, that I thought was one of the greatest games as of last year, actually pushed 10 million sales and actually pushed up the digital sales by a whole lot, because the amount of digital sales that they made, according to this article, was something ludicrous, like 60 or 65 million digital sales. I mean, just imagine, to put that into perspective again, if it wasn't good enough with, the Switch people, imagine if you got 1 cent for each person who bought a digital piece of information, just a digital IP, just a digital game on their store. Just imagine the amount of money you would have if you even got a cent for each sale. I mean, yet again, you probably wouldn't need to work there for the rest of your life. Again, I mean, the numbers are so big, and I'm really happy about it. But what I would actually like to focus on, which I am not focusing on, is that they're appointing a new CEO. And for the most of you, you're going to be like, oh yeah, they're appointing a new CEO. Is it something special with this guy? And I'm like, well, probably, right? Because they're appointing him as the CEO, so probably he's kind of special, he's probably really good at what he's doing. But the appropriate thing here is his age. If you compare it to the last person who was their CEO, he died in the position of CEO and was overtaken by a banker in 2015, who is now turning 68 and turning away from the position and letting the new CEO come in. And now I assume that based on how I was presenting that, you're saying, wow, how young is he? Is he 60 years old? Is he 55? No, he's a whopping 46 years old, coming in and controlling the entire company. I mean, just imagine being 46 and being CEO of one of the most successful companies out there, given, the latest console, the Switch. Imagine the pressure on that poor guy. I mean, they've reached over all of their possible estimates for profits. I mean, I think that they increased their estimated sales for next year by 13.7%. And that is including the already raised approximations that they made over the entire year, because they've been selling more and more and more than they actually estimated that they would do. So, yeah. Yes, I know that I'm rambling a bit about this, but I think that this is awesome. Just that the guy is 46 years old and is CEO of a multinational corporation, that's amazing and revered by so many. That's mind-blowing to begin with. Second of all, that they actually have happened to, just turn this Switch into such a success story after the disappointing Wii U. And after the, I would say, not disappointing, but, the 3DS wasn't my kind of thing. Neither was the 3DS XL. I'm just going to say that out there, yeah, wasn't the biggest fan of those things. But when they renounced the Switch, oh my days, did it just switch the entire market up? Pun intended. Anyway, we're talking about that a bit much. But that was the 2 international pieces of news. But that is not everything that has happened over the last week, my, ladies and gentlemen, my dear audience out there. No, that is not everything that has happened. Also, we've been concluding the experiment with the second camera. Yeah, you probably realize where I'm going with this. What I've realized is that I'm like talking to this camera, having a 100% focus, thinking about, perhaps I can edit more stuff instead of having to synchronize the sound and everything and synchronize the picture and everything. So I might just go forward into the future with just the DSLR. Why? Well, because of 2 reasons. One, as I stated, those things with editing and stuff like that and so on and so forth. But also, if I go abroad, it will be making it so much easier for me to just bring the DSLR and the microphone that I have back there that you can't see, that we did the potential thing with the audio test, and it was a disaster really, but at least we found a solution for if I go abroad or just go away from the comforts of my own home, and it will make it so much easier to actually produce. Plus that I think it's kind of nice on the computer since I have a MacBook Air, and now it certainly does what it's supposed to do. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that I don't know for how long based on how much I'm pushing it, the poor thing. So we're concluding that experiment, and we probably ain't gonna be moving forward with 2 camera angles in the future. Not that it gave that much to begin with, actually, even though I kind of missed the times, but yeah, second of all was this microphone test that we were doing, the different audio test, and that I find a solution, and wow, the stress that just went out when that happened. I felt like someone was lifting a boulder from my chest, and I was like, thank you. Now I know what to do in the future if I'm forced to go a bit earlier, or if I'm not forced to it, or if I'm staying, or if I'm not, or whatever I'm doing. I feel like I have a couple of different solutions that I actually can attain. And last but not least, I do think that you've seen it if you've been following this channel for a while, or if you've just been seeing the last, 2 videos, and probably the podcast that's gonna come out today, and probably the video that's gonna come out tomorrow. Why? Well, because if the podcast comes out today, but they're probably gonna have all the same theme. And what theme is that? Well, it's probably that the Empire Strikes Back of movies of this decade, of this generation, has been launched. Was it even Star Wars? No, it wasn't. What was it then? Well, what is launched this week? We got the Venom trailer, sure, but that wasn't actually a real launch. But what have we launched? Oh yes, Marvel's Avengers Infinity War. And what a movie that was! I made my first reaction to a movie. I made my first non-spoiler review of the movie. I'm going to make a spoilery review tomorrow for the movie. And I'm probably going to make a podcast where I'm talking about the movie. Why? Well, because I like that movie, if you couldn't tell. And if there's anybody out there who wants to listen to that, I want to talk about it, because I'm fired up about that movie. I probably can't stretch this enough. I loved that movie. There were absolutely nothing wrong with that movie, in my opinion. Now, I might be really biased, and I can see that. But still, in my opinion, from my perspective, the amount of enjoyment I got out of this movie was ludicrous, right? I mean, it was up here in excitement levels, even as I left the studio, and that's or the theater, and that's generally not the way that I'm watching movies. Generally, I'm really hyped, putting my expectations way above what they should be, going, see the movie, and I'm like, it's okay. And then I walk away, But this time I went in with expectations higher than I've ever had before, higher than the first Avengers movie. And still, it blew me away, just like that first Avengers movie. It feels like this is the next step of the amount of characters that you can have on screen at the same time and make it work. What I would like to see, just the only source of critique that I have, is that instead of splitting it into 2 movies, why couldn't you just release, like, I don't know, a 4-hour movie? I would like to see that. I totally understand that it's a problem because it's kind of a family movie, right? Even though the tone is very different from other movies. Yeah, ain't gonna spoil it, but wow, is it different from other Marvel movies. Even if that's, happy or sad, you're gonna see it. Yeah, they put the tone quite early in the film, quite early in the movie. But wow, what a story it was. But yeah, as I said, the only thing that I have a problem with this is that I want more. Not that I want more because, oh, it didn't make sense. I want more, I need more in order to make sense of the story. No. Not like Star Wars, Episode 8. That movie, yeah, in my opinion. This was more like, all of this works. Every second of the movie is there because of a reason. I can totally understand, and I can totally see why all of these things are here. And it makes sense within the MCU, within the internal logic of it all. I just wanted more. So yeah, that's the latest from me as well, from my channel, and what's been happening over the week in some of the international business news, because it was amazing the amount of information that I've been bombarded with this week, and I'm just like, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. All of these different things, and it just boiled it down to these, my top 5, because, well, as you can see, we're running out of time anyway, and it's just gonna end in me rambling on and on and on and on and on because of all of these things that's happened this week has been amazing in my opinion. It's really a step in the right direction for both business and movie making in my channel, and wow, it's just been overall 2 thumbs fresh, mates. Anyway, I'm gonna leave you with this. Rather having a nice day with me than having a nice day without, I don't even know. Rather frame your imagination than letting it run wild too soon. Let's go with that. See you, mates. Bye.